One of our professors, he's currently the head of our faculty for canon law, Father George Ruyson. He did a long study in the Vatican archives on Vatican diplomacy during the whole, what we call the Armenian question. So the period for Armenians from 1894 to 1927, highlighted in the moment of the Armenian genocide in 1915, and all of the conflicts that were around them. A very unstudied area is Vatican diplomacy. Now, Vatican nuncios, the ambassadors for the Vatican, often have an extraordinary exposure to political realities because they don't represent an international power. So they can often gain the trust of ambassadors from various sides of a conflict. And that's what George did. He did this study in the Vatican archives and produced 7 extraordinary volumes simply of the diplomatic correspondence, evaluations, eyewitness accounts of all that was happening through this period. So it's a very impressive work that the Armenian students here at the Orientale appreciate very much, because there's a quality of objectivity and presentation of facts through this diplomatic research into the Vatican diplomacy, which isn't someone writing a book with an already made point of view. And even the Turkish embassy said this, that the nice thing about this was it was a presentation of facts. It was not the presentation of an ideology. So when we had a major conference on these books, obviously the Armenian community was present, and the Turkish embassy came to the presentation, which again is one of the things that, it's one of the nice aspects about the church that doesn't take a political position, and especially here where we have very close friends in Turkey, very close friends in the Armenian community, and we can invite them together for a conversation without threat, because it's a safe place. Our man who's done so much archaeological work in Turkey, Father Vincenzo Ruggeri, Jesuit, trained in Oxford in archaeology, has done extraordinary studies, and he can show you century by century the development of Christian art in Turkey. It's interesting from several points of view, because the mosaics, the frescoes that he uncovers show us the concept of the church in the early centuries, and there are different periods, different cultural periods in Turkey, and we can even see the differences century by century from different church communities and how they were expressed in art. So in the art, you see the theology of the church. That's very important for our studies today, even for updating of theology, for updating of the liturgy. What was the original understanding of those who were closest to the original church, those who were closest to the apostles, to Jesus himself? And it unearths all sorts of riches, because many of these liturgies have to be updated. So you don't want to just update them by our own intuitions for today, but our intuitions have to respect the intuitions of the past. So this research is extraordinary from that theological and historical point of view. But it has another aspect, which Enzo is very concerned about, is that in many of these countries, these churches, or they could be catacombs or tombs, shrines, suffer destruction. Some of them are in villages that are populated or not populated. They don't have state protection. So over a period of 50, 60 years, different professors, and Vincenzo is among them, has been taking pictures of these frescoes, of these churches, of these remains that are standing, preserving their architecture. And one of the fortunate things, especially in the current moment when so many of these are being destroyed, is that here at the Orientale we have an archive of extraordinary photography covering most of the last 100 years in Syria, in Iraq, and in Turkey. So monuments that are now, churches that are now lost because of war, are preserved here in photographic form, which we're now digitizing for access on our website. It also, this current moment of computerization allows us to do another extraordinary thing, which is important for the broader world. We have this extraordinary collection of manuscripts, of texts, of art, of photographs, of books. And what we can do with these is make them available online to a much broader audience, even allowing courses to be taught online from here, which is another good thing about being in Rome, that all of our professors are multilingual. We expect to be having courses online in English and in Italian, but then also to be placing these manuscripts, these original Eucharistic prayers, these photographs of monuments, churches from the early centuries on the internet to make them available to a much broader community.